What's that saying? The riches are in the niches. Welcome back to Crunching Your Growth. I'm your host, Phil Masiello, and every week we dive deep into the minds of entrepreneurs who are breaking barriers and reshaping their industries. Today's guest is a true outlier. He started his first business at just 14. He spent decades building, advising, and now empowering professionals through storytelling. He's the founder of the Podcast Network, the Legal Podcast Network. And that's why I'm saying that's where his total focus is. So that's his niche. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's dedicated the last 20 plus years to helping attorneys grow their practices. His name is Dennis DM Meador. Did I say that right? Meador. Well, Meador. Dennis DM Meador. And so, actually, I was going to call it Meador when I saw it because it looked very exotic. But let's bring him in. Let's bring him in and let's talk to him about his story and where he's going and what's happening in the world. So yeah, Dennis DM Meador. We'll call him DM from now on. But thanks for joining us, and I appreciate you taking the time. So why don't you give us a little bit of background, explain to us what you're doing, where you're doing it from, how you're doing it, and all that background.
So this is my short opener question where I take 45 minutes. Is that correct?
I hope you don't take 45 minutes, but that's your short opener question. Yeah, you can take 5, 10, 15 minutes if you want
I'm
to.
just
Sure.
teasing you. So I kind of started my entrepreneurial journey at 14, like you talked about, really out of necessity more than just like creativity, desire. I was a kid. If I had a lemonade stand, it was because I wanted to go, do something that weekend, not because I just could have extra money.
Yeah.
And so at 14 years old, I kind of learned my first big business lesson, which is leveraging others for greater success overall. And so what I did is went out with my brother one Saturday or one school day where we had a bunch of snow, his best friend. We start shoveling walks. We're
Yeah.
taking turns knocking on doors. They're a couple years younger than me, and we get so far into an hour. We're cold. We haven't made much money. And the two jobs that we've gotten, I got when I went up to the doors. So they were like, I don't want to do knock on doors. I don't want to. So I said, well, I'll knock on the door, even though it's not my turn. I go up to the door. The lady hands me $20, gives us the job. I take 10, put it in my pocket, hand 5 to my brother, 5 to his best friend. And I say, listen, I've got a great idea, guys. Here's what we're going to do. Instead of making it take so much time for us to get jobs, you guys work on this job. And while you're working and shoveling this walk, I'll keep going house to house until I get another job. So by the time you're done, we'll have another job where you just go straight job to job to job to job. And they're like, oh, that's great. I don't have to knock. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't have to lift up another flip and shovel. So we do that. That becomes doing more of those. Then it becomes lawn mowing, raking leaves, paper routes. And now here I am, 14, 15, 16, working with 12, 13, 14-year-old boys. And I get the clients, collect the money. They show up and do the work. And I did that for a couple of years. And that's kind of how I got into business. And I saw the advantage of I can go get the customers, but I don't have to do the part I hate. And there's a group of people over here that would love to do the job if they had it. So that's how I got into business.
Yeah.
Then 18 years old, I get into marketing, selling over the phone. Back in like the telemarketing heydays, it started on the more like soliciting donation side. Did well with that. They put me in script writing. I noticed the most people in our company were selling advertising. I got put into that division. Ended up becoming a manager at 19 over guys that are what my age now in their 40s. I take over that department. We see a 60% increase within 3 months in the department. I get recruited by hospital patient handbooks. I start traveling. Now I'm making 3, 4 grand a week at like 19, 20 years old. And I just stayed in sort of that, did another couple more like marketing and advertising jobs until I was in my early 20s. A friend started a company. He said, I want you to be a part of like found it with me. We started in a 6 foot by 6 foot office. We had to take turns calling. I ended up coming up with a product. We moved into an office. Within a year, we were doing 3.5 or so, $3 to $4 million in net revenue, 25% or in gross revenue, 25% net profit. I signed off, ended up kind of running the company from Romania along with my partner. Did that for a number of years, was able to kind of go back and forth, end up in Tulsa. That relationship breaks off. I do consulting for a while. I get back into business. I niche into attorneys in 2003. So I'm working with attorneys now, primarily mostly all white collar, mostly lawyers, different forms. I had social companies. I had a text marketing game that I did for a while. I had a social community I built. Then I went into corporate for a few years, met up with or at the end of corporate, I meet up with my former business partner. He has 78 clients. He's an SEO agency for attorneys. He's been doing it for 9 years at the time. I'm like, you've got a great setup. You just need a guy like me. I come in for a 5-year like partnership. We grow it from about 1 million to about 5 million in clients, 75 clients to 300, almost 400 clients in that 5-year period. And then when the 5-year option came, he bought me out. So December of 23, starting completely over, nothing to do, 5 months from my wedding, living on an island. I can't just go down to the sales center and sell something. So I went into my book of ideas, having talked to attorneys consistently for years now. One question that popped up over and over was, do you guys make podcasts? Can you help me with podcasts? So I knew there was a in the marketplace. I launched it soft in December, got some things in order, some kind of test shows, got my site launch. My official launch was May 1st of 24. Me, my VA, couple of contractors for bits and pieces. Now here we are, a year and a half later, about give or take a few months. We are about 200 clients. We are about 50 people on the team. We did 7 figures our first year in revenue. We won't hit our second. I'm not at that trajectory, but we'll definitely probably at least double or at least go to about 180% of what we did the first year. We'll do the second year. So that brings me to today.
Wow. That's quite a story. I thought I had a good one, but that's not mine's nothing compared to that. So so
So, well,
yes.
and it's the abridged version. So, like that's why I was like, you want the 45-minute or the 5 minute? I cut out
No.
a lot of chapters.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, I don't have that story, but I mean I've got a decent story, but not like that. That's pretty fun. But yeah, so your niche is really the whole legal community. That's where you reside, that's where you sit. So
Mhm.
I mean, explain it a little bit because I know people know about podcasts, they know what they are, but in terms of how you do it, because you're not just going and setting up podcasts for these guys, you're actually operating podcasts. Am I correct?
Correct. This is a turnkey system from beginning to end. So we go to an attorney and we say, hey, Mr. or Miss Attorney, you are an estate planning attorney in the greater Boston market. You have a fairly big practice. You're not just covering like one or two neighborhoods. You're fairly decent size. We work with 1 to 10s. That's 90% of the legal market. Only there's 400,000 firms. 360,000 of them have 10 people or less in them.
Oh yeah.
So we that's who we work with, and we go in and we just say, hey, I don't have an estate planning attorney in your market. If you would like to be the only estate planning attorney that we work with in our system, what we will do is you could do 1, 2, or 4 podcasts a month. We will take 30 minutes, an hour or 2 hours a month of you just being on camera. We send you the questions, we provide the host, we have an on-site producer, our head of production, on-site producer. She's done a podcast for Stephen King. She's worked with Spotify, you name it in the industry. She's well known within the industry. She did Michael Cohen's podcast when he was on house arrest. So, which is, whether your political affiliation, you still see like the magnitude of the people that she was working with.
Sure.
And so, we have this whole team. We produce the show. We script, not really script, but we give them the questions according to who their ideal clients are. So each episode is designed to speak to the needs of their ideal clients. It's authoritative positioning. It's QA podcasts. Now we have some people that want to bring on guests and chat, and we allow for that. We do what we call guardrails with collaborative opportunities. In other words, if you come to us and say, I just want a podcast. What do I need to do? We have a very set method of doing it. But if you say, yeah, but I don't want to do it that way, I'd like to bring on my own guests and this, and we kind of say, okay, we won't source your guests, but if you bring them on, we'll invite them. We'll create the show around that relationship. So we have different ways that we can do the podcast. Then once the podcast's done, so now we've just produced it, right? We've shot it, we produced it. Now we're getting ready to work on the actual editing, sound, all of that. We finish all of that, put skins, brand it, make it look like it was like a CNN type of MSNBC type show. And then we take, and that's where we started. Then we would do all of that, give them 3 pieces of content per show and say, here you go. You got a podcast, you've got content for your website, you got a couple of videos, go have fun. And what we learned was, and you might be shocked by this, attorneys aren't natural born marketers.
No.
And so you can give them all the assets in the world,
They don't know what to
but
do
they're
with
going
them.
to just file them into their virtual bank and move on.
Yeah.
So our most successful clients were people that we were either doing their marketing just as kind of let's do this for them, or they were doing their marketing. So then we stepped in and said, okay, how can we really help? We worked with AI and our Pete team and QA and
Yeah.
created a way to 10x the amount of content per episode. So we went from 3 pieces to 30 pieces. We went
Yeah.
from posting on 3 places to 10 places, and learning all of that through the process, being able to come out the other side and go, okay, we're handling the production, the preparation, the shoot, the editing, the marketing, the distribution, everything. All we want our attorneys to do, or our clients, as we are looking to expand into professionals as a whole, is show up with the knowledge that they already possess in a way that they're ready to present it. And that's it. We handle literally everything else from start to finish.
Makes sense. But I'm still not clear. Who's the host of the podcast? Are you interviewing them?
Correct. We have in-house hosts. We have 6 or 7 of them. And our hosts come on, we call them co-hosts. And so they come on and they're the co-host of that show with that attorney. And then my team asks the attorney the teed up questions that are questions that we sent them based on who their ideal client is.
Understood. So what you're trying to get out of them is the content, because they're not capable of really going on and doing it themselves. You're trying to get out what they do so you can build their credibility with the audience, use that to then market online through various channels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just, it's the Gary V stack. You take a video, and then you repurpose the video, and then you put it on LinkedIn, and then you take and you make a reel out of it, and then you make whatever those swipe things are on LinkedIn that I can't recall right now. But it's like we've just taken that sort of concept, and instead of saying you could sit alone in a room do it, we have 50 people. And some people build the shorts. Some people, are looking at the marketing and posting for them, and we're just doing each and every piece along the way.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. We do that. Well, we do it for ourselves primarily. But that's the whole focus of this show, is really to talk to people, get their story out, and then use it to help them market. Because a lot of people don't want to do it themselves, aren't capable of doing it themselves, have a story. Some have really interesting stories, and again, this is all focused on entrepreneurship and scaling and growth. That's our niche. But as an agency, I understand the challenge, because there's a lot of people out there that don't understand how to market themselves or don't understand how to market their businesses.
Well, and I tell attorneys, I'm like, listen, we're both intelligent individuals here. I do not. If I have a problem legally, I don't just go to LegalZoom and figure it out and use Chat GPT to make a contract and blah blah blah. I go to my attorney because that's what they know. That's what they're good at. And the issue a lot of times with intelligent people is we tend to look around and think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. But the problem is they're doing it 40 hours a week for years, and you think I can just pick up and start from scratch with very little knowledge and accelerate the results and match the results of people that really live and breathe this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's a great niche, and it sounds like a great business model. I wish I had thought of it. I don't know if I would do it for attorneys, because I really don't understand that space, but certainly I could understand doing it for some other markets. And I think that's a really interesting and cool little niche that you've carved out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but Did we talk about where you live? Because you don't live in the United
No,
States
no,
mainland.
I don't live in the United States.
Yeah.
I am a person that believes business and what we do for a living doesn't define who we are. It just enables us to be who we are. So I'm not and when I have to be, I'm an 80-hour get in kind of guy. But that's a season. Like that's not, and I say that because from 18 or from really 16 to 36, I always had some sort of full-time ministry, full-time company, part-time company. Then I got married at 19. I was a pastor at 18. I had three kids in my 20s, and I went 18 hours a day believing that you should monetize every minute from 18 or from 16 to 36, really 18 to 36, and crashed out from it. And
Yeah.
then when I crashed out from it, and I spent about a year in bed thinking I had some sort of like MS or something, learning I had just had a breakdown. And I was like, I can't have a breakdown. I'm happy. I have a successful business. I have a growing church that I'm working with. I have my kids that I love. I've got, at that time, a good marriage. Like, what are you talking about? And it happened. And I had to learn that sort of mind frame and lifestyle of like, listen, how you make money or the fact you make money doesn't define you.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very poor socioeconomic situation, especially from the ages of 7 to 13 or 8 to 13. My mom dated like heroin dealers, crack dealers, gangster disciple gang leaders out of Chicago. We lived about 3 hours away. We would literally harbor people in our house that were wanted for murder in Chicago, and the gang would send them down to hang out with us. And so I went from that situation of feeding myself with cans every morning and my little sister to like growing up and seeing like, okay, I've got to find a way to meet this need. So my one goal in life, people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And all I said was not poor.
Yeah.
That's all I knew. I didn't want to be poor. Now I had to do it in an ethical way, in a way I believed in, and things like that. And life shaped my moral compass from it. But I that was literally what I wanted to be when I grew up, just not poor. And I was fortunate enough at a very young age to discover the way to do that, which is A, harness the talents of other people by being in leadership, and then B, um, working in the marketing industry, which I've loved and enjoyed, and then now for 22 years working with the legal industry. So that was kind of the things that shaped the philosophy I have of your job is not who you are, because my job was all I knew how to be for decades. But that's not a healthy way to live.
No. 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 I learned. I definitely grew up as a workaholic. My family was in the restaurant business and hotel business, and you just sort of in that business, you really you really work a lot of hours, and
Hmm.
it wasn't until I went to college and I was working, I went to college in Miami and I was working in the hotels and restaurants down there that I had the revelation that I didn't want to be in that business because you work until 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, you get
Hmm.
out of work. Nothing good ever happens at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
got to be, I was going to college. You have to be at class at, 8 o'clock in the morning and you're dragging. And I thought, this is just not a good lifestyle for people. I'm never going to be able to have a family or a good structure. And I know a lot of people in that restaurant business and they've made it work, but it just wasn't for me. But I
Right.
did like food, and so that's when I got into food retail, which was a lot more manageable, and that was sort of my first business. But I've talked about it on this show ad nauseum. My first business was a disaster, and not because the business model was flawed. I was flawed. I wasn't a good leader. I wasn't a good manager of process. It was. I feel terrible. I was talking to somebody this morning. I feel terrible for the people who actually worked for me then because they must have just had a miserable existence working there because every day was just pure chaos.
Yeah.
But from there, but I did have a tendency to be a workaholic, even doing that. I mean, I would work 16, 20 hours a day sometimes and just, 5 days,
Yep.
6 days, 7 days a week. And, used to aggravate my spouse and, but you go through it and then you finally one day realize that life is more than your job. So
Yeah. It really it it helps you with perspective, but then it also like a lot of people don't realize the real path to success. Like you talked about when you were younger. Like one of the things, because I had that first business take off in my early 20s, sometimes big successes early can hurt you in the long run.
Oh, I know that.
Because like you think life is easy. You're like, I figured this out by 22. What is everybody else's problem? And then boom, real life hits and you start over and then that sort of thing. But about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, I read a book or an article about the concept of the first generation millionaire. And the
Yeah.
first generation millionaire in the United States, overwhelmingly, they make their first million at about 52. They have run 3 failed businesses before they had a success, and they filed bankruptcy 2.5 times.
Oh, well,
So that is the stereotype or the statistical average of the first generation millionaire. And when I learned that, because when I was in my early 20s, guess what? I knew I was going to be a millionaire by 30. And then in my mid 30s, when I had another big business take off, I knew I was going to be a millionaire by 40. Now here I am, 48, another business taking off, doing well. I have to temper my mindset to be like, all right, dude, don't get so far ahead of yourself that you trip over your own success and fall on your face.
well, um, yeah, I was definitely, I agree with you. And I was definitely driven early on by the accumulation of money. That was a motivating factor. And it should have been something different because I measured success, I think, when I was younger by how much money you can accumulate.
Yep.
And like I said, my first business was a failure. The business itself wasn't a failure. I was a failure of the business, but I wound up selling it, took the money, came down to Maryland, went to grad school, got involved in another business that was very successful, and we sold that. And I was still young. I mean, I was 32, and it was extremely successful, but it was damaging to me because I thought I got this image of myself like I was all puffy chested, and then I immediately went into another business, and
Yeah.
that was difficult, but it was successful. We sold it to a supermarket chain. I was like, man, I am good at this, and I can do anything. No, I'm serious, and this is
No, I know that feeling. I
and
laugh out of like kinship of mind frame. So,
and I'm thinking, man, I can do anything. I can market anything. I'm a genius. I'm on the cutting edge. People are, I'm getting write ups in magazines, and people are like
yeah.
asking me questions. I'm good. And
Yeah.
then I had a string of failures, and because I got into businesses that I shouldn't have been in because I didn't know anything about them. The ones that
Hmm.
were successful were food or beauty, and the ones that weren't successful, I got involved in fashion, and that's a business I should never have attempted because I could barely dress myself, let alone somebody else, and it's an emotional purchase. It's not a logical purchase. Certainly
Yep.
there's people, you're buying clothes for, the winter and things like that, but that's not the business we were in. It was more fashion, and that's more of an emotional purchase. And I just wasn't good at that. And it cost us. And then I got involved in some other businesses that I just had no credibility, no knowledge of. And it hurt. And then I got back into, a couple of good ones, but they humbled me. They definitely humbled me. And it brought me down to reality, which is you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as smart
Yep.
as you think you are. And
Yep.
then, I got into another beauty business, which was successful. And then we got into a shaving business, which was, it wasn't around long enough because the market just got so ridiculously hot. We had started it, and like everybody came in, Harry's Dollar Shave Club, and everybody wanted to be in the razor business, and we just kept getting offers, and we sold prematurely. So I don't know if that would have been more successful, but that led to crunch growth because then the company that was supplying us with the product, with the razors, they had done, we were the only company that they had ever done a private label razor for.
Mm.
And they're the second largest razor company in the world based in the United States. And so we had an American made razor, which the other ones couldn't say. But they came to me afterwards and said, look, we don't know anything about direct to consumer. We need somebody to help us with this whole direct understanding websites and e-commerce and direct to consumer, blah, blah, blah. And that was sort of the foundation of Crunch Growth, which I've grown since then. But my view on life has changed dramatically, over the last 10 or 12 years with Crunch Growth and what I want to do and how I want to approach it, because I do things more now that I feel like I help brands grow a little bit more with the learning that I've had and the failures that I've had and the successes that I've had. But I don't get so tight about it. I don't get so like uptight about, oh, I've got to get this thing to, $100 million. I don't want to do it. I want to get
Right.
it to a point. I have people that are employed, they make money, and then I do other things like this show I enjoy doing because I enjoy talking to people and hearing their stories. I love listening to how people have scaled their businesses. And then I do a tremendous amount of other things. I speak and I write books, but it's all moderated now. I feel like I'm on a more even keel, if that makes
Well,
any
I feel
sense.
like I feel like, and this is the challenge that I'm currently in, which is when you have success and you have a growing company, you have to constantly reevaluate your priorities and the things that you can spend time on. Because, like in the beginning, when I had 6 or 7 people, I could spend 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes with everybody in my company. Well, we're at 49 people, not including myself. So I guess 50. Now that there's 50 people, if I give everybody on my team 15 minutes a day, I've exhausted my day beyond measure. And
Sure.
so I'm trying to like find better ways to utilize my time, video, mass meetings, certain strategic meetings on top of everything else. And so as that success comes, like you were talking about, I do the books and I do this and I do that. I imagine each project that you added, you had to offload something else that wasn't important, whether you offloaded it to another person or you just stopped doing it, period. Every time we add, we have to take away. But as entrepreneurs, what do we want to do? We want to add and add and add and add and add.
Well, see, I'll go back to my first business because that's the exact mindset that killed me,
Hmm.
because I wasn't developing anyone. I wasn't developing people. I wasn't developing processes or systems. I felt like my attitude was, look, I'm the entrepreneur. It was my idea, my concept. I need to have all the answers. And, everybody's got to do what I say when I say, and
We
it
built a
wasn't right.
kingdom.
So
We built a
yeah,
kingdom, and that's what we do when we're young. We build kingdoms unto ourselves until we realize that kingdoms fall
yeah.
much quicker than systems.
But with this business, right from the get go, I took the approach of I had a core group of people that are still with me, and I said, look, here's how we're going to build this thing. This is what I'm good at, and this is what I want. This is my expectation from you. You know, we're going to get on a call once a day, the five of us, and then
Hmm.
we're going to, as we expand and we get more people in, they're going to report to you, not me.
Yep. I
Your
have seven
job
directors, same
yeah,
principle.
your job is to push it out. Now, certainly I'm accessible. Anybody can call me and send me a thing. And, that's not it at all. But my job is really to teach them how to do it and let them go, and not be so trying to be so hands on, because there's things that I'm good at and there's things that I'm not good at. And I know what my limitations are. And I tell everybody what I'm not good at. When we hire somebody new, I tell them exactly what I'm not good at and why
Yep.
they're going to talk to this person or this person. And so, um, I'm more of a strategist, and that's what I'm really good at. That's what my personality is. I mean, I've taken enough of those personality tests to know exactly where I'm at,
Yep.
mentally.
I'm a strategist and a communicator. And what I tell my team is the more that we as a company and as individuals are doing the things that only we can do, the better collectively we are. And so like one of my philosophies is like I hire VAs
Right.
almost every little group of people because I'm like, listen, you're US based, you're US based, I'm paying you 75 grand, 100 grand, whatever I'm paying you. I don't want you spending 4 hours on a Tuesday on a spreadsheet
Right.
that is just gathering information. So I have supportive VAs from different parts of the world for my different teams. And I'm like, why didn't your team VA do that? Oh, I didn't. Well, I just figured it'd be easier for me to do it. Nothing's easier for you to do it unless only you can do it. And so that's one of our biggest core things that we teach within our company is identify what only you can do and then do those things well, and then everything else offboard onto either within the system itself or in some way find a way to offboard it.
Yeah. Well, that's something we learned, you know, with the use of technology, and we've been doing that for decades. But so, because I'm a big believer in technology, I'm a big believer in AI, and we do. I think
Hmm.
we started using AI tools about 7 years ago. One of the first places we were using it was in data analysis, which because when we take on a new client, we don't know them. We have all this information that we can pull out of all their various systems of what other people had done for them in terms of running ads or social media or whatever, and trying to sit there and analyze it manually is just it's ridiculous. It's impossible. And so, but we found this product about 7 years ago that's just continually gotten better. We could take all that, dump it in, and it will literally take about 20-25 minutes to analyze it and come back with a clear analysis of what was good, what was bad, what we have to do, and how to make it better. And so that that was great for us. And then content generation, we're still not on board 100% with just using AI generated content. We certainly
We
start
don't.
with it, huh?
Exact. Where this what I teach my company is here's our flow: AI done by outsourcing, and then USIs. And that flow of all of our content happens. So I have a team that builds the AI, but then I have a team of people like Americans here on the island. My daughters do it as well. I have, I don't know, 6 or 7 people, and all they do, and they make a couple $100 a week. This isn't their career. Some of them make a little more, and this is how they're making their money right now. But they just watch the reels and the shows, and they make sure that there's not AI misspells, that there's not
Yeah.
bad B-roll, that there's not. So you have to have a process right now to, and overall the cost is still significantly less. Oh, sure, if I just threw AI junk out there, it'd be virtually zero. But I'd rather spend a few more dollars per piece of content that I put out there to make sure that it is done right. Because I don't know if you know this, but if you misspell an attorney's name, they are not happy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, anybody, you misspell anything. But AI, I think, gets us about 60 to 70% there. But it's great for idea
Yep.
generation, images. We use AI to edit video. We do a lot of short
Yep.
form video.
Hmm.
We do a lot of long form, turn it into short form video. So it's great for that. But you have to moderate it. You have to watch it because you just can't take what it gives you. You can't take
Right.
a 60-minute show and then plug it into an AI system, and it gives you 100 different clips. But you have to be able to do some of that yourself and say, well, this clip doesn't really make sense. And
Well, we've
so,
gone back. We've gone away for shorts and reels. We've actually had to go away from it because most of like Opus Pro and a lot of these, they changed their algorithm because there was such a need. And so what they're doing is they're splicing scenes together that for some reason the AI thinks makes sense. So we actually now create manually and do in that part of it until we find the tool again to where their algorithm is done correctly. So that's another thing you have to constantly monitor, just like Google's algorithm changes and Facebook algorithms change. Anything that is AI based is going to have a change in their algorithm. So you have to constantly quality check. It's just like if you had a person in a room just doing their own thing, over time they're going to bump off center and change. And so that's what we try to do is stay on top of that. Now, if and when we find the right tool where we can go back and use that, we will. Fortunately, it didn't hit our timelines or our base cost by doing it the way we're doing pure human. But in that particular case with shorts and reels, and we put out roughly 250 shows a month and roughly 3,000 shorts and reels a month, just to kind of contextualize it, not including audiograms. We do that same amount in audiograms and that same amount in like static. Hey, this is what the episode is about. Go check it out.
Yeah. Well, we've had pretty good luck with Opus, but one of the things that we learned with Opus early on is if you put the splits in on sort of where you think that you want to cut, then it'll
Mhm.
do a better job of giving you clips from it. So, in other words, like we may take a show and then put transitions in. We may do that manually, and then you load that into Opus, and it'll read those transitions and cut where you think that you want those transitions to be. So we've had good luck with doing that. But if you just stick it in, it doesn't give you what you want. And
Yeah.
we've tested Promo AI and Veed and all
Hmm.
that to create, videos. But the problem is the problem with the video creation tools, and there's a million of them out there, and there's a million guys out there saying, fire your marketing agency, just plug this tool in. But the reality is that and I know that I've aggravated a lot of people on social media and LinkedIn and stuff when I talk about this because I've called them out on it. The customer wants authenticity. The
Yep.
customer wants authenticity with a brand. If
Hmm.
I'm selling um, if I'm selling a cosmetic product or I'm selling a food product, they want to know why, as a founder, why did you make that product? What problem you're solving for me? And who are you? Right? You want
Yep.
some authenticity. You're not going to get that from plugging into AI. They're going to take the package, put a little swirly background on it, and say, on sale now, $5 off. That's garbage. And so
Right.
it's not authentic and it's never going to be authentic. So those plug and play systems always fail. There was one that was going out there for a while, and I think they went bankrupt, but they were going out for a while, and they were trying to sign up as many people as possible on Meta, and they were running a ton of ads. And we had a client that we took over that actually used it, and the
Hmm.
problem was that it didn't work. And they used it for about 60 days. And when it didn't work, they unplugged it. But the problem was it left a pixel on the site. And what that pixel was doing was it was allocating every single sale that came in, didn't matter where the sale came from, allocating every single sale to their platform. And
Mm.
when what happened when we took over was we're trying to get everything organized to say, okay, well, we can measure and we can do this. And we're looking and going, everything is going through this pixel still. Are you using this? No, we got rid of it. So then we had to try and find it. And I mean, it was so embedded and hidden in the code. It was like
Yeah.
ridiculous. It took us about a week. So, there's a lot of garbage out there. But I do love the ideation part. I even like the image ideas. Like when it does something, like if we do scripts or something in there, which I do think it does a pretty decent job with AI, different tools. But when it gives us an idea of what the imagery should be, we can then recreate that in reality because I just don't like the images. They just look too fake to me. So we could just go and
Hmm.
create that in reality. But I think it gives us, I like the ideation part of AI.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I'll tell you the other thing I like about AI, or the other thing that I see coming is that people aren't really on board with yet or haven't recognized. Today, when you have a website, and for us, it's important because we're dealing with brands, we're advertising, et cetera. And you have this thing called SEO, but SEO has dramatically changed. The reason it's dramatically changed is, if you go back in history, it took Google, I think the number is 5 years. I could be wrong about this, but I think it took them 5 years to go from 0 to a billion daily searches. It took ChatGPT 6 months to go from 0 to a billion daily searches. The
Yeah.
problem is when you have a website, right? You've got Google Analytics, you've got Google uh, ads, you've got Search Console, you've got you know, you've got market. You've got all these tools that Google plugs into your site that's feeding all this data, but you don't have that with AI.
GPT models. Yeah.
With GPT or
You're just trying to get
Perplexity.
cited. You're just trying to get cited.
Right.
I
So you
mean,
have to do it
and
manually. So what we do is we started building portfolios and pushing it in, and that is working tremendously well. But long term, I think we're going to see ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini come out with some sort of a API integration that's going to pull the right data.
well, yeah, I think so. And here's the thing, like here's the way that I like to illustrate the difference. And just this morning, this happened. I wanted to search out something, and I
Yeah.
put this search in Google, and it didn't pull my result. It was a question. It was like, blah, 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 what this didn't make that, or whatever it was. And I looked, oh, it was the question I was asking was, I read an article about Microsoft Teams is forcing their teams to go in office,
Oh
which,
yeah.
if you think about that, is not great for your brand. So I was like, I wanted to kind of quote that. And then so I was like, let me find where I found it. So I go into Google and I do this search. I change it to that search. I go to news. I'm looking. I can't find it. And I was like, kind of frustrated. I tried like 4 or 5 searches. Then I was like, let me try GPT. My wife's always using it. So I go to GPT, literally typed in the first question I typed in SEO in Google. Boop, 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 right answer, cited, everything. And I was just like, this is why people are using GPT.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's uh, there's 10 billion searches a day on Google, and I think now it's 3 point some odd billion on ChatGPT search and Perplexity. But I use them all in different times, and to me, Google Gemini is horrible. It's just
Yeah.
so far behind, and it gives you just terrible, terrible answers, or it tells you, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
I uploaded a spreadsheet to it and I said, can you do this? And they're like, well, the spreadsheet is empty. I'm going, it's not empty. It was, this
Yeah.
is
Well, and
amazing.
I mean, the thing is, it's like anything else. It's like trains don't work on highways.
Right.
Google is a train, GPT is the highway.
Right.
So like there's a change coming, and that's one of the reasons why we use question based podcasts for our clients, not just because it builds authority and answers questions and assuages fears, but with a QA format on specific subjects and things that their clients would be going up against. It also scales SEO and GPT citing,
Yep.
where we already have clients who are like, yeah, I mean, we didn't expect this, but we're getting a ton from SEO, or we're getting a ton from a couple of GPT sightings that we've ended up with already. And so I'm really a big proponent, and so much marketing, especially with people that don't understand marketing, is done as projects, right? So I'm going to do a podcast project. What they don't understand is marketing is an ecosystem. I wrote a piece, and I don't know if it's going to land the way I wanted to, but it makes sense in my head. Maybe you can relate to that. But I ask lawyers: is your marketing a trampoline park or a terrarium? Because you're either just jumping from one trampoline to the next and wondering why you're not really getting anywhere, or you've got this beautiful ecosystem that takes care of itself. And while this flower grows, this comes over here and eats the insect that would badly, you know what I mean? So you're building this ecosystem with marketing that, to me, is based off website is where your foundation is, but then the flow and the water in the terrarium system is content. And to me, the best way to build content is through free talking, especially when you're talking to litigators and people who talk for a living. If I can just harness their innate ability into the right place, then I can multiply their efforts, maybe not ad infinitum, but much greater than if they just sat and did it one at a time across a desk. And so that's all we're trying to do.
I think most companies are on a trampoline. I think most companies chase the bright, shiny thing, and they just don't stay focused and don't have a really good growth stack. And we run into it all the time. And then you have people that have been just off the rails for years, and then all of a sudden they think that you can solve the problem in 30 days. Well,
Oh, yeah.
we started advertising. Why aren't we picking up the $10 million in sales we just lost 2 years ago? And you're like,
Right. Well, and I'll talk to attorneys and they'll be like, yeah, I don't need any clients right now. I'm really busy with my workload. I'm like, you think I'm asking you how busy you are today?
right.
What I'm asking you is, what do you want to happen in 3 months? Do you want more clients? Do you want better clients that fit a specific profile? Do you want to build a practice that's niche down to a very specific case type so that you can enjoy what you're doing and these cases intrigue you and you're specialized in them? Or do you just want to keep taking what comes along and you don't really want to take these cases, but you got to because you've got financial responsibilities? So it's all in the planning and the purpose behind what they're trying to cultivate. And so what we're trying to do is just come in and be like, all right, tell me what you're trying to cultivate. all right, we know the bait, we know the, whatever the system is to get it done. And we just need you to partner with us by showing up, talking, and we'll take care of it from there.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what we're just trying to do is low friction, low time, high impact, and high, distribution from it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. It is amazing though how many people that are in business don't pay attention to marketing or understand marketing or don't think about marketing in terms of setting up a pipeline for the future. They think about it in terms of when I need it, but when you need it, it's too late.
Well,
If
that's
you're,
like, I raised three kids, right?
yeah.
First car. What generally happens with the first car about a year into that kid getting that first car? And that's why you give them a piece of junk car.
Oh, absolutely.
The engine blows up, and then you're like, there's no oil in this thing. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't know I needed oil. Well, I told you, get the oil changed every, 6,000 miles or I even wrote it down here for you. Get oil. Oh, well, I know, but I didn't really think it was that important. Now do you see it's important? And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with business owners. They're just like cruising along and they're like, change the oil. What are you talking about? And then, and then the mechanic comes and they're like, all right, I want a Ferrari. Well, you don't have a Ferrari. If you want a Ferrari, you got to build up to that thing. Let's
Yeah.
just get this running and get you going down the road.
Yeah. No, I raised 5 kids, so I feel you. I
Yeah.
understand the car situation, believe me. Um, we had one that went through 3 cars in, about a 2-year period, and
My brother did that.
yeah,
And what made me mad is he got like cool, like my dad's like 60 something Ford truck that was like tree, and he rocked that, and then he like found this like kind of like muscle car that some old lady had that her husband had, and she sold it to him for like $1,500, and he blew the engine on that thing. And I was just like I got a Plymouth Reliant, a pea soup green Plymouth Reliant for $250 or $300 when I was a little after 16 years old. That was my first car. And then my brother like takes my dad's truck and is like, and in high school, like that was the cool thing. Like you wanted them to know you were coming.
yeah, yeah,
So I've definitely seen that.
yeah. So, any parting words for aspiring entrepreneurs? Any great motivational words?
Um, I mean, I think ultimately remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so when you are sprinting and you fall on your face, that doesn't mean the race is over.
Yeah,
Get back up and eventually find a steady pace that's going to allow you to finish this race that we call life or entrepreneurship or
yeah,
any combination of the two. That's
yeah,
really what I would tell people because if I gave up every time I failed,
yeah.
I would not be here. And I
Oh,
think you probably wouldn't either. I think anybody with any amount of success, we read the stories over and over, and yet what does the media promote? Well, if you aren't an 18-year-old college kid in Harvard who figured out something really smart and coded it, and now you're a billionaire 3 years later, what are you even doing in business?
yeah.
That is a 0.00001%,
Oh, yeah,
exception.
that's hitting the lottery. I mean, Steve Jobs even said it, the number one trait of success for an entrepreneur is perseverance,
Yep,
so, but yeah, thanks DM for joining us and sharing your journey, from being a
absolutely.
teen entrepreneur to creating a powerful new platform for attorneys. Your insights on building authority and standing out in a crowded field are lessons every entrepreneur can apply. And it's every industry. It doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. You want to stand out in your field and be an authority. And so, thanks for tuning in to Crunching Your Growth another week. And again, if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, let us know your biggest takeaway in the comments. And until next time, keep building, keep growing, keep pushing boundaries until you see what's possible.
Agreed.